Me and Caleb by Franklyn E. Meyer. Read by Patrick, Jonna, Emily, and Patrick Cabbage. Chapter 1. The Coming of Petunia. I don't know where you live, but me and Caleb live in Harleyville, Missouri. Caleb is my little brother, and he always does smart alecky things to get me in trouble. Harleyville isn't too big when you compare it to Joplin or Kansas City, but it's lots bigger and more modern than Malta Bend or Hummus or any of the other towns in Oconto County, except Queenston, which is the county seat and is where the jail is. Papa is always reminding me and Caleb about the jail, so that we'll be good. Me and Caleb have never been out of Missouri, but when we grow up and start to work, we'll probably travel clear around the world. Right now, Harleyville is just about our size. There's always a lot to do, and we have fun just trying to keep out of trouble. Take, for instance, the time we got Petunia. That was the last spring. It was one of those nights that are too hot for early spring, when the sky clouds up just before dark, all ready to storm for sure, and then just sits up there and doesn't rain a drop. It was so hot we just lay in our beds and worked at falling asleep. Somehow, that night, I got to thinking about dogs. The thing is, my mother had a little dachshund called Weenie, a good little dog, and man's best friend and all that, but not the kind of dog that does anything for a kid's standing. Now, Dink Fowler had a big meat grinder of a bulldog called Rupert, that he was always talking up as a fighter. And I got to thinking about them, and pretty soon I was in the middle of a dream, and Rupert was going to eat Weenie up, and I was trying to get at them and couldn't, and "They're in here again," said Caleb, and I woke up. "They get in here every night," continued Caleb. I turned over and tried to go back to sleep. "You'd think somebody had come up here in daylight and flit around the room and try to kill some of them," mused Caleb. "Well, they're not over here, so how's about shutting up and letting me get some sleep?" "Well, it isn't the biting," continued Caleb, like he was talking to himself and hadn't heard me. "That's the least part of it. The biting, it's that darn buzzing they always make before they do it. They just do that buzzing in your ears like that so you can't get to sleep and forget about them." "Put the pillow over your head," I suggested. I waited a minute or two while the sheets rustled in the bed next to mine. Then Caleb's voice came through again, muffled and far away. "Can't breathe," he seemed to be saying. "Yeah," I said, and started thinking about dogs again. I couldn't help but hear the rapid in-breathing and out-breathing from Caleb's side of the bedroom. Finally, it settled down to normal again. I was just drifting off again when the breathing started up faster. I listened. said Caleb. He did this for 4 or 5 minutes and then sat up in his bed and did it some more. "Smell it?" he said at last. I let him talk. "Hey, bud, what's in here that stinks?" I sniffed. Caleb was right. Something smelled bad in the air in our room. "You changed socks this week?" asked Caleb. "Sure I did," I answered. "It's not coming from over here anyway. It's coming from all over." We got up and began sniffing around our room. I smelled the closet, even the shoes, and it wasn't that. It was a different smell. Caleb checked under the beds and didn't find anything there either. "Hey," I said, "come here, Caleb." He joined me at the window which overlooked the porch on our side yard. "Smell?" I asked him. "Yeah, it's from somewhere down there. Come on, let's go see what it is. Come on, bud." From long practice, we had no trouble making our way quietly across the porch roof and down to the ground, by way of my oak tree. It was my oak tree because it had my treehouse in it. When we got down to the ground, we sniffed around for a while, but couldn't get the scent again. "I wonder what it was," said Caleb, longingly. "Well, I don't know," I answered. "Well, we better get back upstairs. It's after 11. "Wait! Hey, bud! I got it again! I smell it," said Caleb. As he followed the trail, he held his arms out to the sides like he thought he was an airplane or something. He banked and headed toward the bushes round the back of our house, and I followed. After a few circles and clover leaves, Caleb, like me still in his underpants, went down on a point right at the entrance to the crawl space that extended under our house. The floors of our house stood about 3 feet above the level of the ground. At the back, just under the kitchen window, the bricks had been laid in an arch so plumbers and little children could hide out or do a repair job, whichever it was they wanted. "It's in there," said Caleb dramatically. "That's where the smell comes from. Whatever it is that stinks is under our house." Good dog, I said. Now go under there and see what it is so I can get back to sleep. Caleb began a slow duck waddle into the blackness of that crawl space. His bare feet made no sound on the soft dust. I waited and watched. Above me, a cloud with silver edges drifted over a small patch of stars. I heard a cow lowing from a farm pasture somewhere just outside of town. Then I heard the worst noise I ever heard. It was like a low, hoarse whinny from a sick horse, one with a hairball in his throat or whatever it is they get in their throats. It could have been a laugh or a cry of pain or I don't know what all, but it came rolling out of that pitch black like something insane, something out of another world. Caleb came out of the crawl space too. He was duck waddling at approximately 25 miles an hour, and I don't mean maybe, when he passed me. And he didn't straighten up until he was 40 or 50 feet away from the house. He said, "Holy mackerel," as he went by. I went over and joined him pretty quick myself. Who whinnied? He asked with great sincerity, looking at me like maybe I should know. Not me, I said. Whatever it was, that noise came from under the house. Oh, you figured that out all by yourself, did you? Why'd you think I came out from under there? Because I was lonesome? Well, what was it? I asked. I didn't stop to find out, said Caleb bitterly. Why, I couldn't see anything under there. Not a thing. And just as I got up under the living room, whoo-hoo! Right there in front of me, I almost fainted. I stood up and almost put my head through the hall floor. I think I was unconscious. I got away from that noise, though. Yeah, I noticed, I said. Bud, what do you think it is? What could it be? Caleb pleaded. For some reason, I wasn't scared. Maybe I wasn't completely awake yet, or maybe I just wanted to show Caleb up for a change. I was curious, yes, but not scared. Let's find out, I heard myself saying. Slip into the kitchen and grab the flashlight out of the drawer. I'll go and see. Caleb looked at me for a second. You're nuttier than a hickory grove, he said, and then he went for the flashlight. After he brought it, I worked my way just inside the brick wall. I turned on the flashlight and began to shine the beam around. I couldn't see much of anything except dust and a few rocks and a section of rusty pipe from a repair job some time ago. Whee! When it started, I braced myself like I had when I shot Gramps' 12-gauge last Thanksgiving. The beam of the flashlight only shook for a minute. It seemed to me that the noise came from behind the chimney, which extended down into the crawl space. I worked myself over toward it on my elbows and knees, and outside I could still hear Caleb's nervous whisper. Hey, Bud, you all right? Hey, Bud, you all right, Bud? Soon as I got round the corner of the chimney, I began to feel a lot better, for I found myself looking at the tan flanks of some animal, presumably a dog. The dog was breathing hard, and on each breath, it looked like the rib bones would punch out through the skin. Before I even got to where I could see its face, I detected movement in the shadows round its belly, and changing the position of the flashlight, I'd been holding it with my mouth, I saw a pup with a face weazened up like a caterpillar. He was attempting to nurse, but there was nothing there for him. Beside the caterpillar, I noticed the swollen and decomposing bodies of two other pups. That explained the smell. Then I scooted closer and I looked into the eyes and face of that big dog, and somehow I knew that I was going to call her Petunia. She was a great big dog. She was about the size of a Great Dane with her body stretched out more like a dachshund. Somehow she had gotten the hairy, protruding eyebrows of an Airedale and the sagging muzzle and ears of a hound. Petunia had short brown hair, and her tail might have been transplanted from a collie. "Hello, girl," was all I could think of to say. She lifted her head up and looked over her flanks and over her live pup and over her dead pups and at me, who she couldn't even see because of the glaring flashlight. And that ridiculous tail thumped once in the dust, and then she laid her head back down. I guess she just figured the game was up. She didn't even make that terrible noise when I picked up her pup and held it up next to me and wondered what to do when it nuzzled against me. I guess I cried under the house, that spring evening. It seemed so sad for those little puppies to be dead before they even had a chance at the world. I heard Caleb continuing to ask me if I was all right, but I was too interested in Petunia and her puppy to answer him. That was a mistake. I should have answered Caleb. Later, he told everyone that he thought something had got me when I went down around the corner of the chimney and he couldn't see me anymore. I guess considering the way that Caleb's mind works, this is logical, but I never quite understood it. He burst into the kitchen screaming, "It's got Bud! It's got him under the house! Help quick! It's got Bud!" With these soothing words on his lips, he dashed upstairs and into the placid darkness of my parents' room, with Weenie behind him, yapping like crazy. Weenie slept in the kitchen. "It's got Bud! Under the house!" Caleb shouted, shaking Papa's sore shoulder, like he was trying to pluck a ripe gourd off of a tough vine. Papa was always slow to wake up, except in times of emergency, and, well, according to Mama, he just sat up in bed and tried to work his arm back into joint. "What is it, Caleb? What's the matter?" Mama said. "It's got Bud, and it whinnies. Hurry fast and bring the first aid kit." "Oh, it's all right," said Papa, slowly beginning to come to. "I'll get it back in place in a minute. I don't need any first aid kit." "It's not for you, Orville, it's for Bud," Mama explained. "Why, Bud's arms are as sturdy as timber. Why in heaven's name does he need first aid?" "Because it's got him," said Mama emphatically. "That's what Caleb has been telling us. It's got Bud under the house, and it whinnies." This kind of statement from Mama must have spelled emergency to Papa, because he woke up all at once and jumped out of bed like the hot water bottle was leaking. "It does what?" Papa inquired. "What does it do?" "It whinnies and smells terrible," Caleb informed him. Papa thought this over for only a second or two. "Call the police," he ordered Mama. "And Caleb, you go get your baseball bat." The noise that Caleb had made coming upstairs must have waked Callie. That's my sister. Anyway, she arrived just in time to get in on the last bit of the conversation. In her sleepy and confused condition, she immediately assumed that Papa and Caleb were arming themselves to come down to her room and put her parrot to death. Something that Papa had been threatening to do for 4 years. "Don't do it! Please don't do it!" she pleaded. "He only talked tonight because I had the light on and left the hood off of his cage. It's not his fault, it's mine. Beat me with your baseball bats. Go ahead and hit me. Not the poor bird who never did anything to anybody except talk once in a while when you wanted to go to sleep." Stopping in the doorway, Papa looked at Mama. "I never said Bud couldn't talk at night. What is this anyway? I don't want to hit her with a bat. I just want to get Bud out from under the house and away from that thing that whinnies and stinks." "It sure can whinny," added Caleb. "It does not," said Callie. "It cheeps and it caws, but it doesn't whinny." "I was there. I ought to know," said Caleb. "Oh, yeah," replied Callie. "Well, it lives in my room, and I feed it and clean up after it, and I should know what kind of noises it makes better than you do." "Good night," yelled Papa. "What kind of nuthatch is this, anyway? Callie keeps it in her room, and it's got Bud under the house, and it smells bad, and it whinnies, and I don't know what all else. Why can't you get things organized around here?" he flung at Mama. Then he stalked down the stairs to get me out from under the house. When the police came, there was nobody to shoot, arrest, or apprehend. The only suspicious character around was Papa, who stood muttering to himself over by the honeysuckle vine next to the garage. When things get too much for him in our family, Papa likes to act like he's been driven clear around the bend. I guess it was lucky the police knew him. I carried Petunia into the kitchen, and Mama fixed some warm milk and some medicine for the poison that someone had fed her. She took it and didn't throw up, as everybody thought she would, but Small Fry, the pup, couldn't quite make it on the beginning he got. The next day we made a little grave for him down in one corner of our lot, and me and Caleb kept the lawn watered round the grave so it looked real nice, even through the summer and fall.